Hey everyone, thank you for joining our webinar today, End-to-End Automation with Redwood and Cognitus. Today, we are here to talk about some of the business challenges and the best IT solutions to address them. I'm Pratap Gulabrao, VP Global Digital Operations at Cognitus Consulting, and today we will be discussing End-to-End Automation with Redwood. And joining me for this discussion is the Chief Solution Officer at Redwood, Devin. Welcome, Devin. Great to have you here.
Hi, Pratap. It's great to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome. And as a quick intro to my person, so I come with an SAP background. I have been a technology consultant to start with, but over the course of the last decade, I've gotten more and more exposed to the actual business processes that are typically being implemented in and around ERP systems. And automating and orchestrating these processes has been my focus since. And that's why we've built appropriate solutions from Redwood perspective in and around these processes.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining me today. One of our customers came to us during COVID-19, and their biggest challenge was the workforce has been scattered, and it was on-site and remote model, and the collaboration and coordinations across the financial processes created a huge challenge for them. The month-end closing and other activities, but the biggest challenge that they said that they're trying to solve was the intercompany reconciliation. And after looking at the technical stack, we at Cognitus use a unique way called the Hummingbird way, where we look at and evaluate the technology stack. So whenever a business comes up with a problem to us, we kind of look at the big picture to ensure that we are not just recommending them another technology to solve a problem, but we also look across in their stack if there is something that can help them. And while we were doing our discovery to kind of address the business problem, we found Redwood. And at that point, I think our partnership, while we were discussing with Devin said, hey, you know what, let us see what their challenges, and where Devin also got involved to kind of help us into this intercompany reconciliation. But the biggest thing that I find was that Redwood was very open-minded when they partnered with us. So we started our journey on the discovery, and we had many tools in mind across, right? And Devin participated and his team participated openly for the evaluation to kind of help us understand as well as determine that Redwood was the best for the job to be done. And we were really amazed to see that a workload automation tool who has been in the business for 3 decades has come up with this great solution. So before I jump into a little bit more about today's topic, I would like to ask Devin, how did you come up with this fantastic idea to extend your solution across financial processes? Can you give us a little bit of story, Redwood story here?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. I mean, it wasn't the first thought, to be honest with you, but I think you mentioned it already. So Redwood comes from a workload automation background since the day it was started. But the key focus has always been around automating core business processes. So automating processes that run autonomously in the background somehow was the default way to do that back in the day, 3 decades ago. It appeared to be a technical process, but in fact, it's when you automate processes with Redwood, it's typically very critical business processes like forecasting, production planning, stock replenishment, or reporting. So, and that's what always our focus has been. And about 10 years ago, when I joined Redwood, we started to uncover that specifically in the area of finance, there are quite a lot of manual processes still left, despite all the systems that are in place, despite SAP and all the other tools, point solutions, workflow solutions. processes like month-end closing, like intercompany reconciliations were still extremely manual. And that was even in opposition to some of the core business processes I gave as examples. It was cross-industry. So that appeared to us like a very reasonable area to invest our resources in. So about 10 years ago, we started to build our finance automation solutions. And what these solutions do is they really automate end-to-end these financial processes, of which intercompany is one specific example, because again, as I said, even almost independent of how many ERP systems you have, it can be a very manual and labor-intense process. And we've seen that numerous times also with the joint customer that we addressed in this case, that it can be very, very huge pain that can be addressed with an automation product like ours.
Thank you, Devin. I think that was a great insight, and we really appreciate what you have developed at Redwood. Going back to the pain points that the customer kind of explained to us in the intercompany account reconciliation is there were a lot of time spent manually calculating differences because they had different account mapping. It was part of an acquired company. Not everybody was on the same system. So there was a lot of Excel processing. And there was a lot of manual reconciliation and reposting of the entries, right? As well as there was no visibility across. And what we found out that, to my absolute surprise, that Redwood not only orchestrates process, can give us workflows, but it gives a dashboard to monitor the whole process. Means that was the most exciting thing, that I can exactly find where my process is across when I'm doing my month-end reconciliation, especially the intercompany reconciliation. And like I said, means where there are multiple countries involved, multiple currencies involved, this is huge, right? Because the CFO is trying to close across 13 locations, and each one is trying to do their best in this COVID situation to kind of make sure that they complete all the entries on time. And it was just an email and messaging across, where are you, and follow-ups and Excel sheets. And this kind of streamlined the whole process across. And I think that's the biggest advantage I saw, that if you're working with heterogeneous systems across and you have this intercompany challenge, Redwood can help with reconciliation of the accounts, massaging the data, orchestrating the process, and give a total end-to-end visibility across. And what is unique about our partnership is Cognitus and Redwood, they come up with a great product, and we come with a great approach called Hummingbird, right? And like I said, Hummingbird is an approach to modernize your DevOps, right? So what we do is we are trying to lower your cost of ownership by leveraging your existing technology stack and not adding to the stack. And many a times we kind of help recommend what would be the best way to go around in this scenarios. So Devin, I want to understand, while I was doing this implementation, I found that intercompany is only one aspect. Can you just give us a little bit brief on what other solutions you have, and talk a little about the licensing model as well? And then we have a couple of follow-up questions that I would like to get into a little bit details, because most of the business have them. But can you help us understand what other things Redwood offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I will start a little abstract, and then I'll be a little more specific. But if you think of any process that kind of exists in and around ERP that is still manual, it has a couple of characteristics. So the people that are doing the work are fundamentally doing just certain types of activities. Most of the time, they just pull data out of a system, they put it in a spreadsheet, they do some calculations with the spreadsheet, they do evaluate the data, maybe they reconcile data, maybe they check if the data is above or beyond below a certain threshold, and then they put data back into the ERP again. And that can be, in this particular case, we're talking about intercompany reconciliations and intercompany clearing. it totally applies to that process, but it also applies to our other areas like accruals and provisions. So our technology is capable to automate all these kinds of manual activities that involve pulling data out, manipulating data, putting data back in, managing approval workflows and decision making, and keeping the audit trail of the entire process. And in that context, I think one of the most important things is that as you engage with customers, you have a reliable and a very strong partner that helps you figuring out which ones of these processes are the best to be implemented first. Because one of the biggest challenges I've seen with organizations that we've interacted with is that they get lost finding the best ideal candidates for process automation because they're not entirely sure how to do it. They don't know how to do the process improvement potentially. And that's where I found our partnership to be very beneficial, because together we've been very, very quickly able to find exactly the problem. And then you had the best practices how to address it. You had the pragmatism that it takes from an implementation provider to do the right things in the fastest possible way. And I think that's a very important aspect in thinking about how to automate stuff, is that you have the right methodology and the right partner to do it also.
Absolutely. And like I said, I would sum up it, it's the Redwood hummingbird way, right?
Yes.
So we kind of front end into a lot of challenges that business has, and with your partnership, I think we definitely can leverage a lot of relief to the business challenges and provide value to our customers. So going back a little bit, how is your product licensed? Can you give us a little bit insight into that?
So in principle, it ultimately depends what processes you want to automate, but the principle is that it's consumption based. And because our product is a software as a service platform, so the idea is always that the more you automate, the more you will have to pay somehow. But if you don't automate a lot, you don't have to pay a lot accordingly. So it's depending on consumption, which correlates to the number of processes that you actually run through the system ultimately. And that's the fundamental paradigm of the licensing.
Absolutely, that's great. It's a consumption-based model, pay as you go, and I think that perfectly fits into the cloud journey or the digital transformation journey. So that's definitely you only pay for what you use, and you're not wasting your efficiency or resources. Thank you for that insight. Now, moving on to the question most of us have in mind is, how do you handle security? Means, is your product 100% secured? I'm loading my finance data into it, and most of the customers had this question saying, hey, is my data going to be secured? So can you talk a little about security and how you connect into the on-prem systems for the customers?
Oh, absolutely. So this is a topic that's top of mind for everybody, because the moment it touches business data, everybody's very cautious, and rightfully so. So what we basically do is, as we both discussed, it's a SaaS platform, and it basically automates and orchestrates the processes in the ERP. So the first thing we have to do is somehow connect to the ERP, and we do that with dedicated connectors. So we have, as an example, we have a dedicated connector to connect to an SAP ERP system. We have another type of connector that can connect to an Oracle EBS ERP system, and so on. And these connectors always use existing standard APIs of the underlying ERP systems, so that all the typical security models and checks and balances that the ERP systems require are basically, the demand on that is fulfilled by our technology. And all the communication that happens between our cloud stack and the customer's network is fully encrypted, is fully safe. And also in the way this is connecting, it's through a so-called agent. And we deploy one agent on the customer side that acts like a proxy. And the agent connects outbound from the customer's network to our cloud. So the customer is always in control of the data flow as well. So if they wanted to stop the connectivity, they could just shut down the agent and everything would stop. So and I could go on for probably for another half an hour talking about the technical details of that, but I think the fundamental point I'm trying to make is that we take security very seriously because we know we're dealing with critical data, and we take a lot of pride in being very safe and secure, both accommodating general security architecture standards as part of the cloud and SaaS offering, but also the very specific security measurements that are required as you integrate with ERP systems, which is a different kind of beast on its own. Both of that we are taking very seriously, and we're very happy that we've been able to meet all the requirements of our customers.
Well, thank you very much, Devin. That was a great insight, and we can definitely, like you said, talk about security for hours. But I'm very confident in the product, and I've seen the architecture, and I kind of think that we are delivering with security in mind across many big clients, and people can trust Redwood's security parameter as well as the authenticity or protection of the data. So going further, like I said, Redwood is a tool that we had a great success at our customers for intercompany account reconciliation. At the same time, Devin helped us understand that our journey has just begun at the customers, and we can actually bring more scenarios to the table and see if there are any business challenges across it. So we at Cognitus, we are our technology brokers, and we have strong partnerships across a lot of synergetic tools around SAP Surround. And what we like to do is we like to help our customers find the value-driven solution to the business challenges. And when I say value-driven, that means we are looking at not increasing your technology stack or just recommending a product, but we come with a solution that is going to be sustainable, scalable, secured, with reliable partners like Redwood, who have been in the industry for decades across. So with that, I would like to conclude our discussion today. I would definitely want to thank all of you for taking the time and joining me and Devin to kind of hear our customer success story. If you want further information, please feel free to reach me at pgulabrov@cognitusconsulting.com or also at sales@cognitusconsulting.com. We'd be happy to partner with you in the journey. Devin, do you have any closing comments for our guests today?
I would just like to thank them for their time that they spent with us, and thank you for the great partnership we have established, Pratap.
Well, thank you very much, Devin. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm sure that we'll be talking more as we go into this journey, helping our customers automate with Redwood the hummingbird way. Thank you again. Have a great day.